My greedy mother-in-law threw cold water on me at a family dinner and accused me of stealing her wallet with $10,000. My family sided with her and forced me to leave the party, so I planned my revenge and called the police. Hey, Reddit Stories family. Welcome back, and if you're new here, we're thrilled to have you. We create daily videos on Reddit Stories. By subscribing, you'll never miss out. Smash that subscribe button. Let's keep a target of 1,000 subscribers and tap the bell icon so you're notified every time we drop new content. Thanks for being part of this community. Now, let's dive into today's video. Life was moving smoothly and our family was content. But then my mother-in-law entered our lives more forcefully. While we initially tried to maintain peace, she soon brought a storm of chaos and deceit that I could never have imagined. Hi, I'm Elena. I'm 34 years old and run a successful event planning business here in Chicago. My life has always been a whirlwind of planning weddings, organizing corporate events, and making sure every detail is perfect. But no matter how hectic things get at work, the one constant in my life has been my husband, David. We've always been incredibly close. David, now 30, runs his own marketing firm. Despite our busy careers, we've always made time for each other. Our marriage has been as tight-knit as you could imagine. His parents are retired now, with his father enjoying his golden years with a calm and serene lifestyle. They raised David to be supportive and loyal, and that's something he's always taken to heart. We shared everything and had each other's backs, which made the events of the past year all the more jarring. It started when his mother, Linda, began involving herself more in our lives. I remember it vividly. Things had been tense since our wedding, but Linda started becoming more aggressive with her involvement. Her passive-aggressive comments became more frequent, and her criticism of my lifestyle grew sharper. At first glance, she had seemed accepting of me, but that facade quickly crumbled. As weeks passed, Linda became a constant presence at our family gatherings. On the surface, she maintained a polite demeanor, always smiling, chatting with everyone, and making conversation. But I started to notice little things that seemed off. She would make subtle, passive-aggressive comments, always veiled in sweetness but edged with criticism. For instance, during one family dinner, she commented with a smile, "Oh, Elena, still working those late nights? Don't worry, you'll find balance one day." I tried to brush it off, thinking maybe I was just being overly sensitive. But these comments kept coming, little digs at my career, my lifestyle, and even my choices. I told myself to ignore it. After all, she was David's mother, and his father seemed to want to keep the peace. Over time, Linda's influence over David grew stronger. He became more withdrawn and seemed to depend on his mother's opinions for everything. It was as if the once confident and independent David was slowly being molded into someone new, someone who distanced himself from our life together. I noticed how he started siding with Linda in every argument, and it was getting harder to have a meaningful conversation with him without his mother's shadow looming over us. Family dinners became increasingly tense. Linda's remarks were no longer just passive-aggressive, they were more direct and pointed. At first, I tried to maintain the peace, but it was becoming more and more challenging. My feelings of unease grew as I saw how David seemed to be changing, becoming quieter and more distant. One particular evening, the tension reached a boiling point. We were having a family dinner at their house. The table was set, and everyone was chatting pleasantly. Well, everyone except Linda and me. She had been making snide remarks throughout the meal, and I could feel the simmering frustration building up inside me. Then, out of nowhere, Linda made a shocking accusation. She stood up abruptly, her face red with indignation. "Elena, I need to speak to you. I've been missing my wallet. It had $10,000 in cash and several credit cards. I have reason to believe that you stole it and have been using my credit cards without my permission." The room fell silent. Everyone's eyes were on me and I was stunned. "Linda, that's not true. I haven't taken anything from you," I protested. But Linda wasn't done. In a dramatic gesture, she picked up a glass of water and threw it at me. The cold water drenched me, and I could feel the humiliation spreading across my face. David and his father looked on in shock. David's expression was one of confusion, torn between his loyalty to his mother and his wife. I tried to defend myself, but Linda's accusations were like a storm, drowning out my voice. "I would never do something like that, Linda. You know me better than this," I said, struggling to keep my composure. David was caught in the middle, his eyes darting between his mother and me. "Elena, is there something you want to tell us?" he asked, his voice betraying his confusion. "I don't know what's happening here, but I swear I didn't steal anything," I said, feeling a mix of anger and sadness. The dinner ended in chaos, and I was left feeling humiliated and isolated. After the dinner, I couldn't shake off the feeling of betrayal and injustice. I confided in my best friend, Lily. "I don't know what's going on, but Linda is up to something. I can't believe she'd accuse me like that." Lily listened intently. "I've noticed how she's been treating you. It's not right. Maybe we should look into this. There might be more to her than meets the eye." And that's when I decided I needed to find out the truth about Linda. I knew something was wrong, and I was determined to uncover what it was, no matter where it led. After that humiliating dinner, I couldn't just sit back and let things slide. Linda's accusation had shaken me to my core. I knew I had to find out the truth about her if I wanted to clear my name and protect my marriage. I reached out to my best friend, Lily, who had always been a voice of reason and support in my life. "Lily, I need your help," I said when we met for coffee the next day. "There's something seriously wrong with Linda, and I can't shake the feeling that she's hiding something." Lily's eyes widened with concern. "What happened, Elena?" I recounted the events from the dinner, the accusations, the water thrown in my face, and David's torn expression. "I just can't believe my mother-in-law would accuse me of something so terrible without any proof." Lily nodded thoughtfully. "We need to look into Linda's background. There has to be something we can find that explains her behavior." I agreed, and we decided to start digging. The first step was to learn more about Linda's past. Lily suggested reaching out to people who might know more about her. I remembered Linda mentioning her previous work at a local charity before she retired. "Maybe someone from her old workplace might know something," Lily said. That's when we contacted Sarah, a former colleague of Linda's. Sarah had left the charity a few months before Linda, and Lily was able to track her down. We arranged to meet her at a quiet cafe. Sarah was hesitant at first, but agreed to talk when she realized we were genuinely concerned. When we met, Sarah looked nervous but determined. "I don't know if this will help, but Linda wasn't exactly well liked at the charity," Sarah began. "She was known for being manipulative and deceitful. There were rumors about her getting involved in some shady activities, but nothing was ever proven." I listened intently, feeling a mix of dread and curiosity. "What kind of activities are we talking about?" Sarah hesitated before continuing. "There were incidents where donation money went missing, and Linda was always at the center of those situations. I'm not saying she's guilty, but it's strange how things seemed to disappear whenever she was around. She also had a tendency to pit people against each other. I wouldn't be surprised if she's up to something now." Her words sent chills down my spine. I knew I needed more concrete information, so Lily and I decided to hire a private investigator. I contacted a reputable firm in Chicago, and they agreed to take on the case. We provided them with as much information as we had about Linda, including her previous work and any connections she might have. The private investigator, Mark, was thorough and professional. He promised to keep us updated and began his work immediately. As days passed, the tension was unbearable. Every time my phone rang, my heart skipped a beat, hoping for news. Then, one afternoon, Mark called with some shocking revelations. Elena, I have some information you need to hear. Linda has been using multiple aliases and has a history of fraud. My heart raced. What do you mean? Mark explained that Linda was not who she claimed to be. She had used different names to open various accounts and had been involved in several fraudulent activities. Most alarming was her involvement in money laundering. The amount she had funneled through various schemes added up to over $500,000. I could hardly believe what I was hearing. This is unbelievable. How has she managed to stay under the radar for so long? Mark sighed. She's very good at covering her tracks. But the evidence we've gathered shows a clear pattern of deceit. She's been manipulating people to cover her tracks and keep her schemes running smoothly. The news was devastating. I had suspected Linda was trouble, but I never imagined she was capable of such large-scale fraud. My main concern now was how to approach David with this information. I knew he would be devastated, and I was torn between wanting to protect him and fearing that exposing his mother might drive him further away. I decided to confront the situation head-on. I called David and asked him to meet at a neutral location, one where we could talk without interruptions. David arrived looking anxious, and I could see the concern in his eyes. David, I need to talk to you about your mother. I started, my voice trembling. I found out some disturbing information. David's face fell. What do you mean? What's going on? I took a deep breath and tried to explain everything we had discovered about Linda's fraudulent activities and her history of deceit. I showed him some of the evidence we had gathered, including statements from Sarah and documents from the private investigator. David looked overwhelmed. Elena, I don't know what to say. This is too much to take in. I could see the pain in his eyes, and it broke my heart. I'm sorry to have to tell you this, but I couldn't let you be deceived any longer. Your mother has been manipulating all of us, and it's time we face the truth. David's expression was a mix of disbelief and anger. How could I have been so blind? I trusted her completely. I put a comforting hand on his shoulder. We'll get through this. We have to act quickly to protect you and your business from any further damage. The days after my confrontation with David were a whirlwind of anxiety and heartbreak. He had taken the evidence seriously, but the emotional toll was evident. David's disbelief and anger were palpable as he grappled with the betrayal of his own mother, someone he had loved and trusted implicitly. Meanwhile, I was determined to see this through, no matter how painful it was for all of us. David and I decided to act quickly. We knew that Linda's fraudulent activities could have dire consequences for his business and our family's reputation. To get to the bottom of things, we needed to expose Linda for who she truly was and stop her before she could cause any more damage. The first step was to organize a family meeting. I felt a knot in my stomach as I prepared for what was about to unfold. David and I agreed that confronting Linda in front of the family would be the best way to reveal the truth and hold her accountable. We hoped that once everyone saw the evidence, they would understand why we were taking these drastic measures. The meeting was set for a Saturday afternoon, and I could hardly contain my nerves. I knew this would be a pivotal moment, and the stakes were incredibly high. I asked Lily to join us for support. Her presence would provide a sense of solidarity and reassurance. When the day arrived, the atmosphere was tense. We gathered in the living room of their family home, which had always been a place of comfort and warmth. Now it felt like the stage for an impending storm. David's father and Linda were seated looking puzzled by the unusual seriousness of the meeting. Linda, thank you for coming, I began, trying to keep my voice steady. There's something important we need to discuss. David took a deep breath. Mom, I've discovered some troubling information. I need to show everyone what we found. Linda's face tightened with apprehension, though she tried to maintain a calm demeanor. "What's this about, David? Why are we having this meeting?" Before David could respond, I stepped forward and placed the pile of documents and evidence on the coffee table. "These are records and testimonies from a private investigator. They reveal a lot about your activities, Linda." I saw Linda's eyes widen as David began to go through the documents. As he explained his mother's history of deceit, including her use of aliases and involvement in fraudulent schemes, the room grew quieter. His father, who had always trusted his wife implicitly, looked increasingly distressed. "Mom has been using multiple names to commit fraud," David said, his voice strained. "She's involved in money laundering that has affected my business, and it's estimated to be over 500,000. His father exchanged worried glances, struggling to process the gravity of the situation. "Is this true, Linda?" he asked, his voice trembling. Linda's facade began to crack. She looked around, trying to maintain her composure, but the weight of the evidence was undeniable. "David, Elena, you don't understand. This is all a misunderstanding." David's eyes were filled with hurt. "How could this be a misunderstanding? We have proof of your crimes. You've been manipulating us all." Linda's calm demeanor shattered. "You're all fools. You think you can just throw me away like this? I've worked hard to build my life. You've ruined everything." In a fit of rage, Linda grabbed a glass of water from the table and threw it at me, soaking my clothes and the documents. The dramatic outburst left everyone in shock. David's father stood up, his face flushed with anger. "How dare you? You have no right to treat our family like this." Linda's outburst was a desperate attempt to deflect attention from her guilt. "I don't need to stay here and be accused. You can all believe whatever lies you want." Just as Linda was about to leave, the sound of sirens pierced the tension in the room. The police arrived, responding to a tip-off about her fraudulent activities. I had anticipated that Linda might try to flee, so I had discreetly contacted law enforcement. The police officers entered the room and began to question her. They had a warrant based on the evidence we provided, and Linda's attempts to deny the charges only added to her desperation. As the officers escorted her out, she continued to protest, but the evidence against her was overwhelming. David, still in shock, looked at me with a mix of gratitude and sorrow. "I can't believe this is happening. I never thought my own mother would be capable of something like this." I placed a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "We had to do what was necessary to protect you and our family. It was the right thing to do." The aftermath of Linda's arrest was a whirlwind of emotions and challenges. The shock of discovering his mother's true nature was devastating for David, and the process of recovering from her deceit felt overwhelming. It was a time of intense reflection and difficult decisions. In the weeks following Linda's arrest, David faced a barrage of legal and financial issues. The fraud she had perpetrated has not only tainted his business reputation, but also threatened its very existence. With the help of his legal team, he worked tirelessly to untangle the mess his mother had left behind. I stayed by David's side, offering support and helping him navigate the complexities of the situation. His father, though deeply shaken by his wife's betrayal, remained supportive of his son. Lily, my steadfast friend, continued to help us manage the emotional strain and provided invaluable assistance with organizing evidence. Linda's trial was a highly publicized affair. Her attempts to manipulate and spin the narrative fell flat in the face of overwhelming evidence. When the verdict was finally delivered, she was found guilty of multiple counts of fraud and sentenced to a significant prison term. The judge's decision was a bittersweet moment, especially for David, who struggled with the reality of his mother's crimes. In the months following Linda's conviction, our family began the slow process of rebuilding. David worked hard to repair his business and sought therapy to process the emotional toll of his mother's betrayal. His father, too, began counseling to cope with the end of his marriage and the shocking revelation of his wife's true nature. As I look back on these events, I'm reminded of the resilience of the human spirit and the power of standing up for what is right. Our family's story is a testament to the strength of love and loyalty, even in the face of betrayal by those closest to us. We faced our darkest moments and emerged stronger, ready to embrace the future with hope and determination.